We are being joined by Prakash Javadekar, who is Minister of State with independent charge of the I&B Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change, as well as Minister of State of Parliamentary Affairs. I welcome you, Mr. Javadekar, to DD News. Let me begin by asking you that as the I&B Minister, what are your top priorities? Because the Prime Minister has asked all the Union Ministers to chalk out their agenda for the first 100 days and identify the priorities.
Top priority is to ensure full real freedom for the media. Secondly, to try to evolve a consensus around an arrangement where media, different medias, evolve their own technique of how the media will behave responsibly, because every freedom has to accompany with responsibility, and therefore that's second. Third is most important. Why Doordarshan, which is a public broadcaster, which is now autonomous, why it is not popular? Why it can't? Why it cannot make an impact? Why it cannot be more preferred choice of the customers? And I have seen there are hurdles in many cables are not showing DD channels, which are free to air. How to make the free DTH services more popular? When it is a free to air, there are more than 200, or somebody told me 600 channels. But even if we say 100 channels, good channels, then why they will not take? People will take this free too, because 300, 400 rupees per month is a big thing. But this we have to make popularized. Then there are issues of each arm, DAVP issues, then all other issues. But we have started in the right direction. There is a new media wing, there is a new social media hub, and on that strength, after review, I have written to all my minister colleagues that our Prime Minister expects that all ministers also should use social media powerfully. So this hub is ready to help all the ministers individually and as a ministry to start their social media platforms and handles, so that we can help it to project the right image.
On the question of media regulation, you said that you are all for freedom of the press. But is there a need for an external oversight mechanism? Electronic media, as we know, has self-regulatory bodies, whereas print media has the Press Council of India. Is there a need for external oversight?
Press Council is also a self-regulatory body in a way, because 20 people out of 27 are elected by the media's various segments, their associations. If somebody wants improvement in that process, that can be done. But it's a self-regulation for print media. You have to give teeth to it, because it is run by an act.
It's a quasi-judicial body headed by a former Supreme Court judge.
And so there is a little difference. But as far as radio they are trying, we will see how these self-rule mechanism or self-regulation works efficiently. Because after all, media is free and responsible.
Your government is looking at increasing FDI in a number of sectors. There is a proposal which was pending with the UPA government to increase FDI in various sectors within media from 26% to 49%. Will you take that forward? Will you review it? What will you do on that front?
Well, let me tell you first that it is not that our government has decided to increase FDI. We have decided to increase the investment. Because last 3 years what we saw was the net FDI other than FIIs was less than the Indians investing outside India. So we want to give confidence to the Indian investors so they invest more in India. We want to give confidence to the world global investors so that they also invest in India.
But what about increasing the FDI cap in media from 26% to 49%, a proposal before the
See, it's a question
government
which needs more debate, and I have decided one thing, that certain issues which are we will be putting up our views also after talking to all stakeholders. So that, and then we will present our case to the cabinet. Till that time, I won't like to comment on this.
Okay. What about the intention of the government, if any, to bring about news programming in FM radio?
Actually, personally, my opinion is why it should not be. Because why only Air India's news will be related? They can have their news. You can place guideline in place, and you can always review what is happening. But if people want news, and if they give 5 minutes, now I think 5 minutes are allowed or something like that. But I am very positive on this.
Okay. Now, the Supreme Court in a verdict has directed the implementation of Majithya Wage Board recommendations, which is for journalists and non-journalists vis-a-vis their salaries in the print media. But that is facing resistance from newspaper management. How will you go about implementing that judgment of the Supreme Court? Because there is a lot of resistance.
See, there are 2-3 issues. I belong to a journalist family. My father was a vernacular journalist of 40 years standing. And so I know for certain that what is the condition of the working journalist and how wage agreements are needed. And I think that as far as journalistic part is concerned, the owners also will agree to a great extent. The issue of everybody else is a matter of debate. And more than that, what is important is that in any other industry, we don't, government doesn't appoint wage boards. It appoints wage commission only for the government employees. So when you are not appointing wage, so that's also an issue which is logically correct. So there are many issues. So we'll be talking to the journalistic and labor organizations also, and at the non-journalistic association. And I will also talk with the owners. There is always a midway. There is always an doable things.
Okay.
I think we will achieve some results.
Your predecessor Manish Tiwari was of the view that I&B ministry is inherently redundant and that it belongs to an age which is past, essentially meaning that it is irrelevant and perhaps can be done away with. What do you think?
See, in a new parlance of governance, we'll have to relook to many government activities, not only in IB. In the whole of the government, I also feel many times there are many things which are redundant, which is not the government job. But government is into hotels, government is into everything. This is absolutely, it's not necessary. And I have seen hundreds of initiatives are working